misspoke. I said something the way I shouldn't have said it. I talk about phasing out our dependency on coal. I talk about phasing out our use of fossil fuels. I talk about making sure that we understand that the resources in the oil sands, 100 years from now, we probably aren't going to be using it.
Imagine having your economic fortunes decimated by government policies that seek to take more and to suppress your ability to prosper. Then imagine as your bank account shrinks and as grocery and fuel prices skyrocket, having your bank account frozen because you supported a peaceful political movement Justin Trudeau finds annoying. Then imagine the same man responsible for it all forcing the farmers who grow your food to risk losing their harvests due to new policies that limit their ability to use fertilizers. All of this has materialized in Justin Trudeau's Canada. Over the past couple of years, the Trudeau government has enacted policies that seek to rob Canadians while limiting their ability to earn more. As we watch his government rapidly dismantle our way of life, we can't help but notice how deliberate it all looks. First, Trudeau slapped a carbon tax on Canadians, in a country that accounts for less than 2% of global carbon emissions. This new tax is designed to increase annually, and the last increase in April of 2022 happened at the height of rising inflation, skyrocketing gas prices, and a war in Ukraine that caused the price of oil to jump. Despite calls from premiers and leaders to freeze the increase, Trudeau ignored the cries for relief and arrogantly lectured us on the need to reduce carbon emissions to save the planet. At one point, he sent his deputy clown, Chrystia Freeland, out to give some nonsensical and rambling explanation.
And all of these industries are so important to our economy, and they need to reduce their emissions.
While Canadians were being lectured on their carbon footprints and gaslighted into thinking they were actually going to get their money back, Justin Trudeau was jet-setting around the world, visiting beautiful European countries on his free government-funded private jet. It's almost like we are living in some parody, unaware of our surroundings and clueless about the hilarious script that's unfolding to amuse a smarter audience somewhere out in the universe. It's hard to believe any of this is really happening, but it is. If that wasn't bad enough, Trudeau's destructive medical policies for truckers, travelers, and public sector workers has disrupted supply chains and decimated the airline industry. At Christmas, Canada Post lost thousands of employees across Canada and fell behind for most of 2022, leaving millions of Canadians and businesses unable to receive important packages for nearly 6 months. Hospitals have become short-staffed, store shelves have remained empty during crucial times, and supply shortages for production lines and manufacturing have obliterated confidence among Canadians. Consumer confidence is at an all-time low, and fewer Canadians believe things will get back to normal anytime soon. As Canadians struggle with grocery inflation, the Trudeau government is imposing a new policy that aims to reduce the use of nitrogen fertilizers in farming by 30%. With droughts gripping the prairies and with food shortages imminent across most of the world due to ongoing fertilizer shortages because of the war in Ukraine, Trudeau is throwing gasoline onto the fire. Again, it's hard to believe most of this is not deliberate. If it's not, it sure seems coincidental. More coincidental is the fact that the Netherlands has enacted similar policies, and that the World Economic Forum and the United Nations seem to promote the very policies Trudeau is enacting. It's almost as though it is a concerted effort by elitist world leaders with an agenda to make us all own nothing and be happy. Eating crickets instead of meat and consuming fake plant-based meats appear to be artificial trends promoted by rich people who won't have to follow the same habits. They'll eat meat at their private parties while we eat the bugs. By now, we should be used to that kind of behavior. While the rest of us were trapped indoors, Trudeau, Boris Johnson, Jason Kenney, and various leaders around the world threw lavish private parties for themselves. We shouldn't expect different when they buy up all the farms, phase out meat, and continue to lecture us about our carbon footprints. Bill Gates buying up farmland in the U.S. like it's going out of style looks like an even bigger coincidence, especially after he has publicly expressed his desire to make everyone transition off of meat and toward plant-based diets, just like both the United Nations and the World Economic Forum have stated. It is becoming increasingly clear that Justin Trudeau isn't working for Canadians. He's working for someone else. At this point, Justin Trudeau could be accused of committing treason. His policies have worked to destroy the livelihoods of millions of Canadians while enriching himself and his rich friends at the UN, in China, and in the clean energy sector. Hardworking Canadians have been thrown under the bus to fulfill an agenda they never signed up for. On the bright side, more and more Canadians are seeing the light and standing up for their country. As Trudeau shuts down free speech to stop the rest of us from red-pilling normal, ordinary Canadians and making them aware of his treasonous behavior, more Canadians are catching on. His plans are slowly backfiring and doing the opposite of what he intended. His efforts to clamp down on movements that expose his nonsense have only attracted more attention to his nefarious agenda.
To members of our convoy, this love of community is what Canada is all about. Let me assure the people of Ottawa that we have no intent to stay one day longer than necessary.
More Canadians than ever are standing up. As they keep standing up, the harder the authoritarians will clamp down. In doing so, they will continue to expose their own corruption, which in turn will flip the light switch for even more Canadians. As Trudeau's approval ratings plummet, it is becoming clear that his agenda is being rejected by a majority of Canadians. Now all we have to do is hold the next government accountable, because make no mistake about it, the Liberals aren't the only bad guys.
The present economic crisis. Thank you for giving a good example, and I think the forum
Thank you very much, Professor. Merci, mesdames et messieurs. It's great to be here in Davos and to have this opportunity to contribute to your discussions on some of the vital issues that are confronting the world today. Some of them are complex and they may at times seem abstract. But for ordinary men and women everywhere, the substance of what we talk about here translates into simple realities. Where the substance of what we talk about here translates into simple realities.